Hi everybody, and welcome to this revision video on the stigma of mental illness as part of the psychological health and well-being topic for Stage 2 psychology. Let's get started. So stigma is a negative assumption or negative stereotype that's often based on inaccurate information, but that contributes to the negativity around a particular issue or a particular area of society. And unfortunately, there is still great stigma in society towards mental health, largely because people misunderstand what it is. So often what will happen is people will see a depiction, often an inaccurate depiction of a mental illness in a film or a TV show, and then assume that all cases of mental illness act in the exact same way. What's important to remember is that in films and TVs, they're not often there to educate, they are there to entertain. So they will over-dramatize certain instances of mental illness to entertain, and they won't be based on fact or scientific information. So it's important to recognize that a lot of the stigma that comes from mental illness or that is contributed to mental illness is because people misunderstand what it is. So they will see, again, a depiction of mental illness in the media and then assume that all cases of depression or all cases of anxiety are exactly like that. That's obviously not the case. We know that. No two people are the same, so no two cases of mental illness are going to be identical. Yes, they can have similarities, but for example, one person with depression may behave very differently to another person with the same illness. So yes, there'll be similarities and common symptoms. However, we need to make sure that we treat mental illness on an individual basis rather than stigmatize it in general. So 1 in 5 people are going to experience a mental health condition at some point in their lives. So the more that we can educate society and reduce this negative stigma, the better off we're going to be in psychology. There's also no evidence to suggest that there is a link between mental illness and violence, and this notion should not be used to reinforce stigma and discrimination against people. So violent tendencies and mental illness often don't go together. So what I mean by that is a person with antisocial personality disorder may demonstrate a violent tendency, but it may be because of their mental illness, it may not. So we need to obviously take that into consideration as well. A person with antisocial personality disorder may exhibit violence, whereas a person with the same illness of antisocial may never be violent in their life. So again, we need to treat each individual case of mental illness individually and not generalize or overgeneralize in a negative sense, which is obviously what stigma does. So there's no evidence to suggest that people who have a mental illness, regardless of what it is, are violent or have violent tendencies, and this should not be used to reinforce stigma. So especially in recent years, there's been a massive push of awareness in terms of the stigma of men's mental illness. So there is unfortunately still a lot of stigma in this area and around gender expectations in society and especially in men's health. So being tough and told to man up and don't show emotions and so on. We know that in psychology that is incredibly toxic. So the main push in terms of awareness campaigns of reducing stigma is targeting men's health in particular, which is a good thing. So statistics from 2017 to 2021 show that on average, approximately 6 men will take their own lives in Australia every single day. And it is the leading cause of death in Australian men aged between 15 and 44, which is more than double the national road toll. So as we have, or as we will, discuss in class, there is a horrible stereotype and stigma around men not being able to show their emotions, not being able to cry or talk about their feelings and reach out for help. And that is a societal construct. So it's part of the biopsychosocial model. It is a social part or a social expectation that is leading to very, very toxic behaviors in men's health. And we need to reduce the stigma around that and encourage men and boys to obviously reach out if they need to and normalize men and boys showing their emotions and that not being a problem. So more recent advertising campaigns targeting men and boys have become very popular of recent years, particularly on social media apps, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and obviously TV and YouTube. One of the most recognized foundations is Movember, all right? So that not only is very popular in Australia, but it's also internationally recognized. So characterized by men growing a moustache in November to start the conversation and provide fundraising to put into organisations to help, again, promote reducing stigma of men's mental illness and develop more resources and more advertising campaigns to reduce the stigma and encourage people to reach out for help. So if you need some extra support after watching this video, make sure that you access the Weebly site, where I've left all of the links and phone numbers to a wide variety of resources, including Lifeline, Beyond Blue, Headspace, and of course the Movember Foundation. If you have any questions, please do let me know.